I sleep with an eye mask at night so that I have time in the morning to mentally prepare before I make eye contact with my husband.
Disgusting.
That is so gross.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a follow-up video about her divorce.
Honestly, hot take, I hope there is.
People are doing things once a week, and it's like, once a week? That's the standard?
Yeah.
Rookie numbers.
Like rookie numbers.
Right? And the thing is, like, if you want people to participate in this, you need to make it worth their while. There's something to be said about letting her do most of the talking during a date, because then now all of a sudden...
The red flags just come spilling out.
You could just go ahead and pull the string of the yarn ball and just be like, let me just continue on.
Scarf.
And we'll see what happens, what unravels here.
Oh my gosh.
So today is going to mark the first episode of season 3. So what we're doing is we're going through the 48 Laws of Power. Side note, like, this is mostly for our audience. However, we have a secondary benefit that I think this is kind of like essential reading for teenagers going into adulthood. So at some point, our 2 teenagers are going to be watching this whole season to get the ins and outs of the 48 Laws of Power.
Hello, children.
Hello, children. So we'll go ahead and get started with some reacts, and then we'll get into the content.
I thought it was really cool when we were meeting, like, the teenager at...
Oh, yeah.
He was like, oh, yeah, my teacher told me to read that, and my dad wants me to, too. I'm like... That kid's going. That kid's going places.
There's something to this.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's go ahead and get to reacts. Boop.
Lie.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
How was the lie?
No, what did you say before that?
What?
What did you say before that?
I'm gonna take my walk.
Before that.
You wanna do it?
Right.
What?
What did you expect me to say? I said no, but what did you expect me to say?
I never know. What difference does it make?
Well, it makes a lot of difference.
You're making a video.
Anyway, exciting times over here, just off the live and catching up with emails and TikToks, and anyway, that's what I get. You want to do it? Marriage 101.
So you're telling me that a man who is your husband can ask you very plainly and straightforward without any pressure if you want to be intimate with him. It's just a clear yes or no answer, and he's not going to pressure you into it. He's on to the next topic, asking you how your life was. But you have to shame him because you are so offended that he asked you that question. How dare he? Because what? You're busy doing the things that are more important, which is talking on your TikTok live, your followers, your emails. This here is something that makes a man feel like nothing. And honestly, when he realizes that he's being filmed, you can hear the exhaustion in his voice. That is a man that had no problem taking the no, but then you made it a problem by shaming him online. This is a problematic marriage when this is occurring. Absolutely. When you're finding the need to shame your husband for wanting you online, a husband being shamed for wanting to be with his wife in that way.
That's insane.
Like, I said no.
Okay.
I think we guessed that, lady.
Yeah, we could figure that out.
Ma'am, I think we guessed.
You're still filming yourself, and you're not doing the horizontal monster mash. Yeah, okay, I got it. It's pretty straightforward. Like, the fact that the priority stream was TikToks, emails, saying no to intimacy, shaming him on social media is just like crazy. It's like, why? Well, first of all, why are you doing this to your husband? Second of all, when he points it out to you and he realizes that you've started filming him without him knowing that you're shaming him, the fact that you didn't just cut it off there shows how audacious this woman is.
You think that's okay?
It's perfectly normal, apparently.
Marriage 101.
Yeah, as if she's like trying to teach people that this is what the standard for marriage should be, is shaming your husband in front of a live audience. No matter how large or how small the audience is. It's not relevant. The relevant part is the fact that this is normalized and this is extended as like part of what should be expected, which is completely disgusting to me.
Yeah, I saw there's this other one, and it's just like any of those kinds of things where they talk about having regular intimacy or whatever in a marriage context, and people will go, yeah, I'll take things that never happened for 800. Like,
oh yeah, and then you wonder why marriage rates are plummeting and why divorce rates are increasing and all of that. It's like, when you make it less appealing to be in a marriage than out of a marriage, that's exactly what's going to happen. And so, like, what is the net benefit to a guy to volunteer for this process? And the case that is being made is worse and worse every year. It seems the more that this kind of stuff right here runs rampant on social media.
Everybody posting those like Tinder profile things.
Okay.
There's this one chick, relatively like objectively attractive, but she's got like the dress cut down to here and all that.
Sure.
And she's, talking about once 6 foot plus, blah, blah, blah. She said sex once a week.
Okay. Once a week, huh?
And the guys are like, I can get more being single. Like,
Yeah, for cheaper. And so it's like, what's the deal here?
and they're like, well, if you want to be married, you got to get used to it. I'm like,
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing too, is I remember when, we were looking at something else and they were talking about how, only this percentage of people are doing things once a week. And it's like, once a week, that's the standard?
Yeah.
Rookie numbers.
like rookie numbers.
Right? And the thing is, if you want people to participate in this, you need to make it worth their while.
Fun fact, I think I did reply or comment on that one that was posted. I put rookie cookie numbers.
Rookie cookie numbers? Oh, that's funny. Sure.
Because it is.
All right, let's move on to the next
Raw.
one. Raw.
I like her. She's cool.
Men are so easy to please. I mean, the list is pretty short. And I'm not talking about Flash Your Man all the time and a blowjob week. Does she make you feel important? And more importantly, does she make you look important? Does she elevate your status? Do you know what I mean, you guys, when I'm saying elevate your status? Does she make you look important to other people? That's what you really, really need in a woman at the end of the day. That is what's going to make her a 10 out of anything. Those are the qualities that you need. She needs to be able to elevate your status and make you look and feel important. Find a woman like that and you have the perfect wife.
There's definitely something to that.
Like, why be hot and problematic rather than be mid or less and be an absolute asset to the team?
Yeah, and that's the question is like, what is it that you're bringing to the table? And nobody wants to really answer that question genuinely. Yep. And the thing is that we're looking for somebody to act with dignity and to conduct themselves like a classy person. And it just reminds me of that episode of The Office where Jim is like, yes, but is it classy?
It's a state of mind.
Right? It's just a state of mind. It's one of those things where, like, it isn't necessarily that you are doing the things, but it is how you are doing the things and how you conduct yourself in your daily life and how you represent yourself to the public, both as a wife and alone, right? How is it that you are presenting yourself to the world? And how does that representation reflect on your husband? And so a lot of these things with social media, for example, that first one that we reacted to, that is not anything reflective of a positive set of circumstances for a wife.
She is that one was absolutely oblivious. Because priorities, it's not a priority to her. How she is representing her marriage.
Well, she doesn't have respect for her marriage is what the deal is.
And the thing is that, there are usually, by and large, in this day and age, there are not shotgun weddings. Nobody's or arranged marriages are not really a thing in our culture.
Right.
Nobody is sitting there forcing you to marry a person or not.
Yeah, they're volunteering for this.
It's just like that.
But when you project because it speaks louder about yourself than it does about the person that you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's representing your marriage that way. It's representing that you are acknowledging you chose poorly.
Yeah, and it's like posting your L's on the internet for people to see and for other people's entertainment.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's what it takes to be a strong, independent woman and don't need no man because you're just going to insult him on the internet.
Go off, queen.
Go for it.
But go off alone, please.
Yeah. I'm surprised that he puts up with that behavior.
Yeah.
But he probably doesn't know that he has other choices in the
And that is what you see that in guys when, you going to put up with that? The look on their face, they didn't even know they had a choice.
Well, I think so many people are just brainwashed by feminism nowadays. And you even see it in the church, since the 60s. It's been crazy. Speaking of which, it's interesting because the Catholic Church just came out yesterday.
Oh, I
and they're
saw
like,
that.
no female deacons. And I'm like, wow, that's a pretty big step for the Catholic Church. Last pope that they had, Pope Francis, was a little, quite a bit left of center on a lot of things. So it's kind of interesting to see the pendulum swing the other way a little bit. But anyway, it's just one of those things where in order to be a good wife, one of the things is how do you represent your man in public and in your private conduct?
Especially both together and alone. That is the biggest thing. It's like everybody just thinks, oh, well, I'll just kind of rein it back in. But when I'm by myself, it doesn't matter. It's like, yes, it does.
Well, it's interesting because you had a good story when we were going over the notes yesterday about social events. Can you go ahead and share a little bit about that?
Just you being in the military, I've had to be on your arm attending different functions. And then also now in the private sector and business world, you are one of the more visible people in the community as a whole, especially in the business community. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I know him. Oh, you're his wife. That's so cool. Okay. It's like all these people come at me and they're like, they know me, but I don't know. I was like, okay, you probably know my husband. Cool. But there have been
least that's your inside
times
voice.
both at events, they kind of approach me and they want to know, okay, what's he really like? And it's interesting because it's kind of like this cloak and dagger way of asking or, warming their way in conversation, to kind of dig for where's the dirt? Where's the tea? Because I think you are such a dynamic person that they're like, okay, he can't really be like that all the time. Come on now. It's interesting because they will never get any kind of dirt or a different story out of me because what you see is what you get. We are who we are. I mean, obviously I'm going to be a little quieter, a lot quieter, honestly, because, I don't need to be because this is your thing. You take the lead and I just kind of look at you adoringly. That's kind of what I do. But, if somebody actually does approach me individually and ask me for thoughts and opinions, I am always very cognizant that I represent not myself, but you. Because honestly, I wear your name. So even when I interact with people by email, if they got an email from me, it says Mrs. Michael Richter. It does not say my first name. It says it in the signature. That is why I do that. That not only I let people know how our relationship is structured without any words from me at all.
Sure. It's a passive signal.
Yeah. But it's also a reminder, a little tiny, hey, remember, before you hit send,
double check the tone, double check everything. Yeah.
I do.
Sure. And it's interesting because it prompts you to think through propriety and think through your messaging when you're conducting yourself in the world. And it's a good thing for you to have that extra layer of protection for you to not just shoot off at the mouth or do these things that people that have no guidance will just do off rip. So I think that's something that says a lot, and I think more people could stand to benefit from that perspective.
I mean, it doesn't matter if we're attending state dinners or whatever, or just, at the grocery store, and it doesn't matter who the husband is out in the world and whatever. It doesn't matter. No matter what, you are wearing his name. Act like it.
Yeah. It was really interesting because I saw something on my Twitter feed earlier today. I still kind of call it Twitter.
And they made a verb out of it.
Right. Not the point. The point is that I saw this video as I was scrolling, doing my due diligence today, and there was a video of a guy that had taken his wife's name, and the prompt was react with one word.
Ew.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's one. And so I thought captive, whipped. I finally went with infected.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But it was just one of those things where just the fact that video was framed that way and the way that she was dancing looked as if it was a feminine version of conquering him. And it was a public display of conquest. And that kind of public display amongst most men would completely tank the respect that men would have for that guy. Like, if I saw that guy in public and I remembered him from the video, the first impression would already be ruined.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where being careful about how you put yourself out there as a wife, and especially how you go ahead, if you're going to do content together, how you go about doing that matters.
There's always going to be exceptions to the rule and all of that stuff. And there's going to be relationship and marriage dynamics where the wife just does make more money than the man.
Oh, like when they're monetizing her beauty?
Or whatever. No, not like...
Well, not directly. I mean,
No,
indirectly.
yeah.
Because, like, let's be honest, most women that are super successful on social media do so because they're at least moderately attractive to start.
True. But, like, there is definitely a way to navigate that well. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult, though. I started particularly thinking, especially when we talked about, my care in addressing people, especially when we were in the military context. So that made me think of male military spouses.
Sure, and they're so, like, overshadowed by everything. They're like an unsung community in a lot of ways.
Yes, and a lot of things, like the play dates and stuff like that, when a man comes into that, essentially to the hen house, let's be honest, there's such an ostracization.
Sure, because he's not part of their club.
And whenever I happen upon one of these
unicorns,
I actually tell them, you are a magical unicorn, and I'm so glad you're here, because they get enough of that kind of stuff.
Sure, and I mean, like, don't get me wrong, that's not the choice that I would make, but it's the choice that their family's made, and so there's no reason that they should be punished socially for that set of decisions, because she has made a decision to serve her country and take on patriotic duty, or whatever reason was associated with her joining in the first place. He's going and supporting her in that.
Especially in the intel bubble.
Right.
Like, it's a lot of people who met while they were both service members, and then one or the other kind of takes a step out, especially if they start a family together, stuff like that. But sometimes it's the husband. And I mean, he's probably doing his own stuff. Like, we have friends. He works and does his own thing and all of that. And she's in the military. So there is definitely no shame in the game. It's just, you have to be more conscious about how you navigate it. You have to be very intentional about structuring your family in a way that reflects your values, whatever those are. But if one person is going to lord it over the other on either side, it's wrong.
Sure, but I think that it is much more socially acceptable to dump on the guy. Right. You see all the followers in the comments for those kind of videos. It is ubiquitous that, these chicks are dunking on their man in public. Mm-hmm. But if the roles were reversed, the entire hen house would go ahead and be screaming in the comment section.
Be a lynch mob.
Yep.
For the dude. Oh, you're so toxic. It's like, really? Wait a minute. Do you remember I think I showed it to you.
What's that?
At Disney World, where the character or the cast member who's playing Gaston.
What about him?
This girl went to go take pictures with him, and she felt him up, essentially.
Grabbed his nerds?
Yeah. No. She grabbed on his pecs and stuff.
She got kind of grabby.
But he actually was like, okay, we're done. And he actually was signaling for his handler and security, who's, there's plainclothes security people all over Disney you wouldn't even know coming out of nowhere, and she was like, oh, it's like, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's so harmless, why is he getting so upset? It's like, if it was a girl, come on, you guys.
Yeah, it's a double standard. Like a lot of things in social media world is, hey, abuse of men is one of those things that's expected and it should be tolerated according to them, and it is disgusting.
It is.
How much sensitivity there is to women's plight, where even if a guy just looks at them once in the gym, she can get all crazy on him. But this chick goes ahead and feels this guy up while he's working, and he's signaling for help, and you're going to shame the guy for that?
Yeah.
Like, why not address the woman that's acting out of pocket? Nah, we can't hold women accountable for things. That's just crazy talk.
Especially like the character he's playing. If you think about it.
Yeah, that's a really weird dichotomy,
But
too.
it's the same kind of thing where people like actors and actresses who play villains on shows and movies.
Because
they
to
can't
disassociate them? Yeah.
Divorce the character from the actor. It's like, well, that just means they're a really freaking good actor.
Or the person or the fan is like dumb and they just can't differentiate fantasy from reality.
Yeah. It's like, guys.
Their parents never taught them that TV wasn't real. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next one.
I still stand by the fact that my husband is the ugliest man that I have ever met 5 years into our marriage. If you are single right now, it's because you want to be attracted to your partner, and that is just not realistic. I don't know how many times women on this app are going to have to say it. Find an ugly ass man and marry him. I'm not talking about a guy that just needs a little brush up, okay? I'm talking about a terminally unattractive man. I sleep with an eye mask at night so that I have time in the morning to mentally prepare before I make eye contact with my husband. But here I am, married, and you're not, so who's laughing?
This is not what you think it is, because your husband wants you to be attracted to him. He doesn't want to hear that his wife has to wear an eye mask in order to prepare herself to see him in the morning. That's wild. And it's not like the stories where the woman meets a man and she's not initially attracted to him, but because she gets to know him and his personality and then like things happen. That really does happen. But that means that she becomes physically attracted to him. It does not mean that she has to talk herself and mentally prepare herself to see him. And a huge part of why he needs you to be attracted to him is because he wants to enjoy husband and wife things, especially in the bedroom, and he wants you to be into it. And if you're not into it, listen up, ladies, because I cannot say this loudly enough. He does not want it.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
That is so gross. Like, you know, I've seen those kind of things where it was like, okay, I can at least kind of understand. And then she talked about like, find yourself an ugly ass man. And then she went with the eye mask and mentally preparing her. And that is just messy. That was just messy and gross. Like it just went off the rails completely into a ditch and exploded in a fiery mushroom cloud.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a follow-up video about her divorce.
You know, honestly, hot take, I hope there is.
Why don't you go ahead and put some notes? We'll
We
follow.
have to research it.
We got to follow that up. That's interesting. Just for someone to say that so blatantly
that was
on
just
social
terrible.
media to besmirch the husband in public like that. Like the first video we reacted to was like disgusting enough, but that was just like insane.
Yeah, that was so icky.
Well, and the thing is how Homath has two sets of standards, like the grasp between women pairing with guys that they do know and women pairing with guys that they don't know, and like what they're looking for, and how women, when they look at a guy that they don't know, they have higher standards for looks, whereas if it's somebody that they do know, personality goes ahead and
factors into the mix.
Factors in much more than looks does.
Definitely.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it is a whole package kind of thing. But the thing is, if a guy is a mid in looks, he makes up for it elsewhere. Whereas, you know, when a chick is mid in looks, there isn't that much more that could be made up for in terms of just like raw attraction.
That's true.
Now, in terms of relationships, it's a completely different matter. But raw attraction, beauty is what it is. Like, it is the coin of the realm in terms of women. So, but that's freaking gross.
Yeah, that was just bad. It was a mess. Go fix it.
All right, well, let's get on to the topic for today. We're going to go over the 48 laws of power. We're going through laws 1 through 4. And the idea is that these are essential lessons for life, and that some of these are going to be really messy because we're talking about deception and how to utilize different levers of power to your advantage. Now, you can take it as a tool to use it when you see it is useful to you. Or I think for a lot of these things, I would say this is kind of like a cautionary tale where you should be aware of these things so that when these levers of power are being used against you, you can see the game for what it is and that you can go ahead and work against it.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to put our critical thinking caps on today. Like, this is a little bit of a higher level kind of discussion because it's just the presentation of these tensions. That's it. Like, and we're not applying, like, our goal here is not to apply any like moral value to any of this, really. We're just like looking at like life application.
Sure. And I think that some of these are genuinely morally like indefensible in a lot of ways if you're going to be a man of integrity. But I think that the value of knowing and recognizing it for what it is worthwhile, even if you're going to be a man of integrity and you don't intend to use these things for yourself, for your benefit. I think it's definitely beneficial to go ahead and look at it as having both a sword and a shield.
Mm-hmm. So it's not that we're saying, oh, these are the things that you should do or shouldn't do. It's just kind of spreading it out like a buffet, and you kind of take what you want and leave what you don't and whatever.
Yeah. And another thing, like the idea is that modern men are taught to be like passive and taught to be just like agreeable, generally speaking, in like a feminine oriented social hierarchy. But by being able to recognize these things and use these things along the way, you can make your mark and accomplish things that you would not be able to if you were not aware of these machinations when they show up.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, at the core of like human nature, that being agreeable and stuff and the expectation of doing so within social constructs, that is a feminine trait. Like, don't even get it twisted. Like, men are not supposed to be like that. Like, men are supposed to walk into a room and instantly, almost within the first 10 minutes of just walking the room, know where they stand in the social order.
Yeah.
Like,
we can assess these things if you're attuned to it.
Yeah. But like, this is what's supposed to be.
Right.
According to our nature. Like, but women are supposed to we're supposed to go into a room with neutrality, like completely just kind of sit back, read the room, be nice to everybody. But then in the background, we are going, like, I know I do this, within 5 minutes of meeting somebody, I know you are here, or you are like, here, let's be friends forever. Like, I know within a 5-minute conversation with someone.
Sure. And I think your social calibration on that is a lot more finely tuned than most people's are.
Yeah, probably. But I'm also, allowed to fully rest in my feminine nature.
Yeah, because you don't have to worry about being, a girl boss or anything like that.
No, I don't. So a lot of women just have divorced themselves from that. And they just come out with, everybody's over here, and I'll see if I'll let you in. And it's like, that's not how it's supposed to be. And those are the ones where I know, like, we are very different people. I can wish you well, I can be civil, but we ain't gonna be best friends.
Yeah.
You just too girl bossy for me.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about like why this matters, like, and set kind of a framework. So we're in an attention economy nowadays where people's attention is what their value is derived on, especially when we talk about social media. Not only that, but like workplace politics is a huge deal that people are doing more and more of. Whereas like back in the day when you worked a factory job, it was just, can you get the job done or not? And a lot of people are in office jobs where you're like working with other people and people can go ahead and set you up for failure or set you up for success depending on what's going on in the environment around you. And I would prefer that guys understand what's going on rather than just getting caught flat-footed. Because I remember when I was real young, I had no idea about any of this stuff. And I had stepped into puddles unintentionally left and right. I was just like, what's going on here? And so I had to go ahead and take a lot of time and like intentionally figure out what the heck is going on here so that I didn't have like these wide open weaknesses to be exploited. And it's just one of those things where, like, if you don't have a father or a father figure to show you how social environments typically work and how things go along, you're going to make all these mistakes when nobody's there to show you what right looks like. And so my hope is for guys to take this and to be the kind of men that don't have to repeat the mistakes of my past by taking these lessons and internalizing them and deciding whether they want to apply them to their life or simply use them to protect themselves from other people using these things.
Yeah. Also, as we have compared notes a little bit ahead of time, I just instantly started to see a lot of good applications for women. If there's any of you wonderful unicorns out there who want to be a little bit better, or men who have kind of sat back passively and had these kind of chicks or some sort of variation of it, hopefully a lot tamer than we've kind of shown the worst of it, who are trying to walk back and take back their position in the household, in the marriage, in the relationship. That way, I've seen a lot of value in how that looks like to walk that back.
Sure. And so just like these things can be useful in social environments, in work environments, and just in your everyday life, this is also useful in the context of mating and dating. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when women try to manipulate guys, they're using some of these powers against them. And guys are just falling for this crap left and right.
There's oblivious. You need to know.
Right. All right. So let's get on to the first law. The first law is called never outshine the master. And so some of this comes down to looking at when someone is showing you the ropes, everybody has a little bit of ego going on, and it's important to know people and to know where they're standing. And when you show people up that are ahead of you in the process, it can really bruise their ego and cause them to not want to share with you as you go along. Whereas I would say the better move would be just kind of assess whether they're upwardly mobile or not first, so you have some context for what's going on. And if they are upwardly mobile, support them in their mission, and you're going to tangentially benefit from the process. And you're going to be like invited into a lot more cool things that you would not have been able to if you're just trying to take credit for yourself and everything. It's interesting because when you're the low guy on the totem pole, it's really easy to shine because being better than average at the low end of the totem pole, there's low expectations. And as that totem pole positioning gets higher and higher, to stand out takes substantially more effort. So why not take the benefit of being the low man on the totem pole to take small victories and to project credit upwards so that the people that are above you that are still upwardly mobile are the ones that are like, I want this guy to come with me along the ride. So then you are exposed to so many more opportunities than you would be otherwise. It's interesting because this kind of works in girl world a lot too, right? The idea of when a woman is brought into a social environment and like the lady that is co-signing for the new girl, mm-hmm. You don't want the new girl to outshine the person that just brought her in because then she's disrupting the cheerleader effect.
Like instantly the daggers are out. Like you're done even before you've gotten started. Mm-hmm. It's true. Like you have to make sure you don't upset like the balance of power there. Again, that whole thing where it's like you walk into a new environment, you need to like be neutral. You need to just sit down in the corner or against the wall and read the freaking room. See where things are. And then kind of figure out where your little place is to start. Mm-hmm. Because it's only a matter of time in a completely female social order where the queen bee is going to either there's going to be a mutiny or they'll completely like F up.
Sure. And all the other chicks that are in a position to want to take over her spot or waiting for her downfall.
The movie Mean Girls shows this quite well.
Okay.
I mean, there was actual like calculated sabotage, to be honest. But there's somebody who kind of came in and was like, just like, I don't even need to be here. What are you doing? Why am I here? And kind of just knew their place and started there. But then ultimately made quiet moves to position themselves as the next, like, obvious choice to replace the number one spot.
Sure. And the reality of the situation is the people that are above you aren't always going to be there. At some point, their time's going to come and they'll move on with something else, or they will no longer be upwardly mobile and then they'll end up being a falling star. And you can take your choice about whether you're going to continue to follow them or if you're going to strike out on your own at that point. Whereas some people will even go so far as to take the opportunity to see the falling star and to push them off the cliff and take their spot by force, or, backstabbery and all of that. I would not recommend doing that, by the way, but that is a thing that people have done and can do and will do again. And you see this a lot in politics.
So the last few minutes of how we've been talking about this is a great example. See, this is why we started with the preface that, like, we're not ascribing moral value to this.
Yeah.
Like, this is just, we're talking about what is, and that's it.
Sure. And you can decide what should be based on your own ethical framework. We'll go ahead and make recommendations, but we're not going to prescribe the thing for your life.
It's like, so submitted for your consideration. This was Exhibit A of that.
Right. So just to refresh the memory. So general mistakes that you see guys making with this rule is like trying to show off their competency too much, trying to prove their worth too eagerly and too much, and then forgetting the emotional realities that exist in different contexts. So forgetting that people have their own egos that can easily get bruised and not understanding where their place is in the pecking order. And then you talked about the difference in girl world versus guy world, and that reminded me about the different ways our hierarchies work, where in girl world, hierarchies are generally flat in nature, and then you'll have a queen bee and then like a little bit of tussling underneath, whereas in dude world, you have more or less a pyramid structure where there are fewer guys on top and more guys on the bottom, and guys working their way up. And depending on what kind of hierarchy you've got, there's lots of elements that go into it.
But definitely, this is instantly from this first one. This is how I saw. I was like, oh, there's applications for if you are trying to establish a traditional relationship, especially if Mr. Mans is out in the world in businesses or whatever, and you are kind of on the arm of a high value man. You make sure that you don't need to like tell everybody your life story and what's going on with you and whatever. It's not about you. This is how to be the arm candy, essentially. And that was where I found, that's where we started talking about that whole, like, when people try to get me alone, go, what's he really like? It's like, not that I'm lying or embellishing, it's just the truth. But also it shows that you are insanely proud of the person that you're with. And, that's it. That's all people need to know.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think an illustration for this concept is that the man is the king and the woman, the queen, is his crown. And so when you see that, what is it that you are showing on top of his head? Are you showing that he is in a position of respect and esteem, or is there a steaming dump on his head? Right? Different kind of steam there.
That's true.
So here are some things to make good use of this rule. When you are doing something and you're doing it well, one thing that you can do is you can praise upward. So a good example of this is the person who trained you is a little bit higher than you, and if you did your job exceptionally well, you can be like, hey, thanks. This person showed me how to do it, and he was a really good trainer. And so, yes, you recognize that you have exceptional performance, but you're also giving some of that credit to the people that have come before you. And that is a really classy move. People will pay attention to that very quickly. And when you talk positively in public about other people, and it ever gets back to them, all it does is help you in the process. And to take the time to be gracious and grateful for the things that people have done to help you out it's positive on you because you're showing humility, and it's positive on them because it boosts their reputation. So why not do both? It seems like such an easy pro-social behavior to adopt.
Yeah. Also, it, is like that 5-minute judgment call.
Yeah.
It's like, that guy, I like that guy. I like his vibes and stuff. And if you're expressing your gratitude to other people who've invested in you, and you are speaking of others well, then people are going to see that and kind of go if you ask them for something, or if they want something, they will go to you first.
Sure. You kind of like plant the seed in their mind that you're a good guy and that they should be rewarded in investing in you. And they will if you act in this manner, because people will come to you time and time again. And that's how you build a reputation over time, by exceptional performance time and time again, and honoring your betters along the process.
And this is kind of an easy one to take advantage of. It doesn't take that much effort to do, especially if this is not natural to you.
Well, it's a very classy move that most people don't instinctively think about.
Yeah, but also in this culture, that's just so like skeevy and negative and try and take advantage of people and kind of thing. Like, it is so, the entry level is so much more approachable than probably like 50, 70 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Where like manners were the thing.
Sure. And now just showing some modicum of being polite or some little bit of effort in terms of manners like stands out a lot in our culture. So another thing that you can do to strategically apply this concept is make other people feel needed, because then they're more likely to invest in you more. Because to provide them an ego boost is not the same thing as letting them know that they're valuable. They're just a little bit different enough that it's worth taking the time and putting notice to that.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a couple of things like when we made dinner this week at church, and like everybody's like, oh, this is so good. And you're just like, it's all her. She did it, which was like, oh, so sweet. But it was funny because, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure that most people that we go to church with don't watch this, but it'd be interesting. I'm kind of outing myself that a couple of people who are like older people in the church community, they were like, that was so good. And I said, well, if you thought it was good, then it must be. Like I said, if it's insert name approved, it must be good.
Sure.
And you wouldn't believe they were skipping away from me. They just thought it was like, you could tell it gave them such like a little confidence boost.
Well, because you were affording them a compliment and it was like subtle.
Yeah.
And they were mature enough to be able to read through the lines that you were providing them honor in your statement.
And I mean, it wasn't entirely disingenuous.
Sure, not at all.
But like these are the people, especially in the community of faith that we attend, that we're part of, that I really do respect. And it's sort of just this little way that I could communicate that respect to them.
Sure. It's like a adjusting crowns kind of thing where you're
It
like,
really was.
just kind of give them a little pep in their step.
So that is to say, in doing these kinds of things, you never have to like lie.
No.
Or just be completely like go above and beyond. It's gonna come off fake. It's like you don't need to like do too much.
Sure. And not only that, the thing is, if this isn't natural to you,
Start small.
Start small and then start trying to find a way to cultivate an attitude of gratitude, right? Because oftentimes your attitude determines your altitude. And if you don't have gratitude to correctly align yourself with what's going on around you, it's very easy for you to have lower lows. And I think that for people to express gratitude over the little things is something small that you can do as a habit to live a better life.
Honestly, that is, for me, that whole like 5-minute conversation and I know where we stand. The people that go instantly over here, please stay away from me, are those ones that you can just tell everything. They have critiques about everything. They're going to criticize any little thing that they could. They're looking for the things to criticize.
Sure, or they're victims of everything, or they're entitled to everything. Like, it's
the
just
Eeyore, go find your tail kind of thing.
well, it's just one of those
That's what I
things
call it.
because just by acting like that, it is a passive signal of your value as a person, and they don't recognize that that's exactly what that is. And so we talk about virtue signaling every now and then where people are being disingenuous online and doing things just to go ahead and show, hey, look, I'm a good person because I'm saying this thing online, but not actually doing anything in line with that. It's a similar thing, but in reverse. So it's not exactly vice signaling like we had talked about before, but it's pretty close. It is a show of low social standing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then another way that you can apply this rule before we move on to the next one is to innovate quietly. So if you are going to try to work on something because you see that there is improvements to be made, you don't have to do that in public and show that over the person that showed you how to do things. You don't need to do that over your boss. You don't need to be doing that. What you can do is just build out an innovation on the side and propose it to them and be like, hey, look, I don't want to go ahead and say this in public. This is kind of like a thing that I think that we can do better in our company because of ABC, XYZ, and submit that to the person in front of you or ahead of you for approval, right? If it's outside of your direct authority to do anything about it.
And you're talking about at the lowest level possible.
Right, where you don't have a lot of autonomy, like in your job, and you have like prescriptions for what you're doing. I think that at that level, having the innovations be quiet and in private, and then taking the time to socially implement them with your superiors up 1 or 2 levels. If you're going to go 2 levels, make sure that the person just above you has some heads up, and you go ahead and give them like the framework of what's going on, and you get their blessing to go up a 2nd level, because you definitely don't want to go around them, because that's exactly the wrong thing to do according to this law of power right here, is you would be outshining the master at that point, and they're going to find some way to get you if they have less than sterling integrity.
Yeah, well, especially with the example you gave, like you find a better way of doing the thing that you were trained to do. You like, well, maybe, wouldn't it be easier to, you don't know what the view is from above you, like
Sure.
from like a 30,000 foot view. Like me, I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking how to do. But I don't have the holistic view of all the parts of the machine.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like at this point, you're like, I've found a better way to do this. Well, you don't go to the CEO and tell him, I've thought of this better than you have. If you approach it as, hey, I'm thinking that this is, can you please like give any feedback as to why that wouldn't be the best idea?
Sure.
Then, because otherwise if you're like, I have done a thing, and then it's like, you're an idiot, that doesn't work at all. Then guess what?
Yeah.
Cue the Pac-Man. Pew, 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 pew.
Sure, you're the nail that's like slightly out of
You're
the
done.
board, and then bam, the hammer's coming for you. Well, and it's just one of those things where you're acting out of ignorance, and you don't want to be in that position where you're just caught out in the open, where you think you're the smartest guy in the room, and then everybody lets you know where you stand. And that's just a mistake that some guys are going to have to make for their own. I would just recommend you guys don't make that mistake. Ask about it first so that you can, if you don't have proper context of all the pieces of the puzzle around you, maybe they can help you out. And the fact that you are going above and beyond in that context will signal to them that you are thinking levels beyond your current position. And that may be of benefit to you in the long run as well.
Because sooner or later, that whammy's going to come for you. You're going to hit and go, oh no, I'm done.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. Like if you're 98% sure that you are correct on something, think about it this way. If you just put it out there and then that 2% comes for you, and it's like,
it hurts a lot less if you're just putting it out there gently.
Yeah, especially if you pose it as a question
rather than a definitive statement.
that needs confirmation rather than putting it out as a statement that's going to get refutation.
Sure. At certain levels, that makes a lot more sense to do that. Yeah. At other levels,
at lower levels, absolutely.
Like higher up, you've got to take measured risk at some point, and definitive statements are much better in terms of like leadership, clarity, definition of action, and all of those things. But in the context of being in the lower rungs, this is definitely the better way to do it. And so that's why as you develop as a person, you end up getting different social tools along the way so that you don't put your foot in your mouth along the process, because depending on the context of where you're at, you should be acting differently according to the context that you're in.
And on the other side of the table, if you are a person in a place of authority and little Joe Spivey starts to kick off a little bit, posing that same thing like as a question, like kind of handling it more inductively, it's way more powerful. Rather than just telling, like giving them the smackdown and be like, you're an idiot. You need to, like...
You're walking through the process.
That reflects poorly on yourself. But rather than letting them, I'm so sorry. It's just like, they're like, ooh, I messed up.
Well, or at least they'll just recognize the flaws of their plan, or they'll see, I did not account for this and this piece of the puzzle. Let me integrate that with what I'm doing, and then let me see what I can come up with.
Mm-hmm. And it will get a net positive reaction. It will make for a net positive interaction.
Sure, and you're exposing your emotions and your ego a lot less in that process too. If you are exposing yourself less to just outright social ridicule, it's probably for the best.
Life lesson, don't expose yourself.
Don't expose yourself. Yeah, that's the life lesson, I guess. Universal lessons. But not only that, but also there are socially acceptable ways of doing these things.
All right, exposing yourself.
Yeah.
Socially.
Yeah. For example, while we're in the bedroom, I will expose myself.
That's not social.
It is definitely social.
It's interpersonal. It's definitely not social.
Very interpersonal.
Okay, that's enough. Moving on.
So, the second law that we're going to go through is never put too much trust in friends, learn to use enemies. Now, on its face, this law sounds really backbitey and
Machiavellian.
I think
that's the word you used yesterday.
Yeah. If you don't know who Niccolo Machiavelli is, he wrote a treatise to show a high up official in Italy ways that they might flex power. So it was kind of like a guidebook for people that are backstabbers. Take a look at it sometime. It is an interesting work of art.
And if you want like a more entertaining like introduction to it, watch The Princess Diaries 2.
There you go.
The guy ultimately he plays Gimli.
Sure, I got you.
Yeah, he's like the uncle who is like he has a hard-on for Machiavelli.
There's a time and a place for it, and it's just one of those things where if you do it well, you can get somewhere in life. And most of the politicians high up, they go ahead and use a lot of these levers.
Yeah.
And you can see it from afar, and they'll go ahead and nice over things and glaze over them. But man, when you peel the onion back a couple of layers, it gets real ugly real quick for a lot of them. So the bottom line that undergirds this law is that friends have emotional vulnerabilities that you may or may not be really in tune with, like depending on how close you are with them. Mm-hmm. Whereas enemies of yours often act in predictable ways where, like, for example, if you go ahead and look at the way the Democrats are posing themselves in like social discourse nowadays, almost anything that Trump puts forward, instinctively they are going to fight against it in a litany of ways. You can expect that that's exactly what's going to happen.
To the point where he says something and he almost makes the commentary for them.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
And that just makes it hilarious.
Like
to the point where now he's like making like he's memifying himself and he's making all these AI thing. Oh my gosh.
It is great. But I just remember Dami, he went to the White House and and one of the reporters had asked, "Hey, so now that you're here at the White House, do you think that Trump is a fascist?" And
you could say yes. It's fine.
Trump's like,
I don't care.
It's okay. You could say yes. You're good, buddy.
DGAF.
He just didn't care. He was just like, yeah, go ahead and say it. Like, that's part of your brand right now. Like, we recognize that stuff is going on. I know how the game is played. Go ahead. That's fine.
But it's funny because he knows he's shooting himself in the foot.
Oh, Mamdani, when he goes in.
Trump knows he's shooting himself in the foot because everybody's like, I wish I could take. Already, they're like, I regret voting for that guy. It's like, turns out you can't do everything that you said and everything.
You're talking the New York man.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Turns out you can't give away everything for free.
Turns out that things cost stuff, so you got to get money from somewhere. The city of New York is not authorized to unilaterally raise taxes. They have to get approval from the state of New York in order to raise any taxes. That puts the governor in real bad water because one of her campaign promises was no new taxes and trying to do finance reform and things of that nature. That puts a real big tension there.
Anyway,
The point is that
it's not for political commentary.
enemies are predictable, whereas friends, if you don't know them all that well, they could go ahead and act in really interesting ways that you may not have predicted.
I mean, if they are a genuine opposition for you, you know how they're going to act because it's opposite of what you're doing.
Sure. So I think a lot of times in the context of this rule, some of the mistakes that men generally make is they will have blind loyalty. They won't really have a good assessment of what's actually going on in different relationships. Or they misjudged the level of the relationship. They don't know what is a reasonable ask and what is not a reasonable ask of people. I think another thing that dudes do to expose themselves in the context of this rule is they overshare. Like they show their soft white underbelly a little too much, and they put on their show a little too much so that they are overexposed.
Again, this is feminine behavior that they've been conditioned towards from culture that is coming back to bite them in the you-know-what.
Mm-hmm.
This is these oversharing and trying to like show your vulnerabilities, especially at an early juncture, is like completely in opposition to male social nature. Like
Right.
male social, or it shouldn't be a thing. Yeah. It is a way to ingratiate yourself to other people, to make yourself likable and agreeable. That's feminine social behavior.
Right. And there's a time and a place for it, right? It isn't like, hey, you need to just unzip your pants at every social occasion just to just whip it out there.
What did we just say about exposure?
There's a time and a place for it to be socially acceptable. That's what we said.
Yeah.
Anyhow, another mistake that dudes make is they bring different levels of friends into a business a little too hastily, and that can go very poorly without a cleanly defined set of roles and responsibilities and like really well thought out process for that kind of thing. Because I think all too often dudes go, oh, I like this thing, you like this thing, let's do this thing together and let's do a business. And then no partnership agreement, no nothing, no legalities.
And most of the time, they don't know how to business.
They don't know how to business.
They know how to do the thing, but not the business part of it.
And then all of a sudden, you got this guy that's embezzling funds, and then the other guy's left holding the bag for the business debts. And it's just like, Turns out that business has left and right boundaries to it, and you need to figure out how to do these things.
So no matter what, even if you've been buddy-buddy for decades, paperwork, get in writing.
Sure. And the thing is, like, there's a lot of interpersonal dynamics that are in play for these things too, because no matter where you're at, people will have some kind of ego. And if you are just kind of like loosely associated, you don't know where their loyalties lie and what makes them tick. Whereas if you are like really close friends that have consistently over a period of time shown that you want to improve them and they want to improve you, and you have like
invested in one another,
an invested brotherhood kind of relationship, that's a different context. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is like your fair weather kind of friends, where if you are doing well, you can inspire jealousy in them, and then they're going to find opportunities to backstab you along the way. And so
that is rife in girl world.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, it's happening more and more in guy world as guys are just brought up in this feminine way instead of like realizing that, hey, we have a hierarchy. We've got a mission to do. Let's do the thing. And I want you to be better so that we can do the mission together better. And I think a lot of guys just completely miss the mark on that because they have been brought up with a social hierarchy that is flat rather than looking at the realities of the world, that all the people that are truly successful in any line of endeavor, there are relatively few of them at the top.
Yeah.
Anywhere you look.
I mean, that's why in girl world, you can't rise too fast because then you will breed jealousy, because as women, we are naturally security seeking.
Right.
And in a vacuum of male energy or male framework, we find that security in self.
Yeah, and being chaos goblins.
Well, yeah, but like for our own benefit. So that's why if somebody else in your periphery that you're supposed to be like close to, they are rising or improving too much, too quickly, and you are at the same level, it makes you go, I should have that, even though I have done nothing to invest in that.
Sure,
but
it's just
also
envy.
that, and yeah, and that's where it comes where, she should be helping me do that too. Like we should be going together. So then breeds jealousy, friendship ended.
Well, and it's interesting because a lot of times in female friendships, the women will take a look at each other's spouses or boyfriends or whatever and compare themselves on that basis as well. And so if one girl's like husband is doing way the heck better than another girl's husband and they started close to the same level, there's going to be all kinds of like chaos unless these women are operating within masculine frame from their husbands or their boyfriends or whatever, because then they're less likely to go ahead and stab each other in the back and more likely to work together as a team on things.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think especially in this feminized culture, that is why it is even like difficult for women to be friends with other women.
Oh, yeah.
But even more difficult for couples to be friends together.
Oh, with other couples?
Yes.
Yeah. Because unless you guys stay relatively close in terms of your progression over time,
Yeah.
things can get sideways pretty quick. Like it just kind of reminds me of a lot of times when you've got friend groups where, say, one couple, the guy is a plumber and then the other guy is in college and ends up as like a lawyer or a dentist or whatever. And like to start out, the social standing associated with the dentist or the lawyer is higher than the plumber. But at some point, if the plumber ends up, becoming a master plumber and owning his own business and all of that, like those tables can turn real quick.
Especially in a profession where this supposed to be, or at first, the higher status, lawyer, whatever, is like they have to hustle to establish themselves in this like business world.
Right.
And so they're like gone long hours. They're like all random times of the day. They have hot like paralegals or whatever.
Hot secretaries.
Stuff, that threaten the wife and stuff. And then they see this man who's always home by like, okay, maybe sometimes 6 or 8, but he's like home consistently, works consistently, and like they're just plodding along together in a stable way. Then she's like, I want that, not this.
Right, or maybe it could be like that.
I got it. Like even sometimes people get into these friendships because they like the lawyer's wife, whatever. They feel superior to that other person, but then they see things that make them jealous, and then they're like, I don't want to be friends with them anymore.
Well, it's funny because it can also happen in reverse.
Yeah.
So like the woman that's got the stable relationship is like bored of the stability and goes ahead and looks at all the fancy things that the lawyer's wife's got and then gets all jealous of, why aren't you working hard enough to go ahead and get us that?
Yeah.
And looking at the material things that are associated with it. And that's a two-way street. Both of those things can happen depending on circumstances. And without like proper guidance and leadership, those kind of things can get off the rails super quick.
Don't do too much too fast.
Yeah. So some ways to like apply this strategy is first to trust people's behavior more than you trust their words. Like when they show you who they are, believe them. They can talk a big game, but if their actions don't follow their words, then you can put them a little bit further away from yourself and distance yourself because that's not somebody that is trustworthy. Another thing is you can look to somebody and see that you have mutual benefit in an arrangement, and those are much more trustworthy relationships because your ability to benefit is intrinsically aligned with theirs, and you guys win together, and that way you're less likely to screw each other, right?
But that's like especially when you meet somebody, they don't have any investment in you. There's just this exchange of like, this is even if they don't give you like a full formal like elevator pitch,
Sure.
they are showing you right off the bat who they are. And within like the first 15 minutes of meeting somebody, that is when you should pay the most attention. Not even when you've been best friends for like 10 years. I would say the first like 15 minutes, you need to pay the most attention to this person that you've ever have. Because they're going to show you who they are. Because they have no motive to either lie to you or try to take advantage of you or anything.
Sure.
It's neutral. And I think that's kind of something that a lot of people miss because they're just like, oh, we're just, chatting and passing the time. No, you're meeting somebody and you're you need to figure out who they are and what they're about. And especially if you end up exchanging phone numbers or whatever, being Facebook friends.
Sure. And then I think the last way that we can use this strategy is the idea that sometimes an enemy turned into a friend is better than starting off as a friend, right? Where you have this joint history where you start off as bitter enemies and then you find a common good to fight towards and you discover a lot of good things that came of that thing. A lot of times it builds a stronger friendship from having that conflict to begin with. And I think that is such a weird thing, but I see it so often that I would be remiss if I didn't let people know, hey, be on the lookout for this.
I think that's an accurate assessment of the culture because if you just my cursory looking at, all these people who are, little book talkers and stuff, the most commonly beloved trope is the enemies to lovers.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Like people love to watch that. They eat it up with a spoon. And I think that's why.
Well, it's funny. I think that's why, aside from being such a comical character, I think that's why they like Deadpool a lot. Is that like he's an anti-hero. He doesn't do the whole like good guy shtick all the time. Like he has skeletons in his closet and he's not afraid to be like upfront about it. And so it's kind of an endearing kind of thing to him.
Well, think about the mating and dating world. The good guy, boring.
Super boring. You got to
The bad boy everybody loves to hate, that's the one whose bedroom's very busy.
Very busy bedroom. Yeah, because you can make her happy, you can make her sad, but don't bore her. All right?
That's
You
true.
want to give her some excitement and just kind of like push her a little bit, and rustle her jimmies. And your jimmies will end up getting rustled in return usually. But anyway, let's move on to the next law. Concealing your intentions is generally a good thing to do. You don't have to announce all your moves as you're making them, is the bottom line. And you can go ahead and be direct about what you're doing and hide the why behind what you're doing. I think that a lot of times guys will loudly say what they're doing to try to get validation from other people, which is a really feminine thing to be doing.
It is a feminine quality to do that.
And guys will broadcast their goals to everybody. And as they're making moves, they'll go ahead and be really loud about it to develop attention. But a lot of times the people that they're getting the attention from is not the people that they really want it from, right? Because the people that are already on their grind are not paying attention to that kind of thing. It's the people that have all this time on their hands that can pay attention to that nonsense.
Yeah, they're busy doing their own stuff. I don't have time to pay attention to you and go, oh, look at you. You made a thing.
Yeah. Now, this is different from a really tight-knit brotherhood of men. Like if you got 3 or 4 other guys that you have been consistent friends with for an extended period of time, that's probably a good thing to share like your wins, your losses, your goals and aspirations, so that you can invite them to come help you along the way, and that you can help them along their way as well, right? But I think that putting it out for the public to consume is the like very feminine behavior that is going to lose respect in a lot of ways.
Also, people like that tight-knit, like brotherhood kind of thing, they know you the best. So when you're talking about, I'm thinking about doing this, they're going to be like, that is a stupid idea, bro. There's no way you're going to do that, because you know who you are. And then you go, yeah, you're right. That's true. I'd like to. Oh, yeah, that'd be fun. But yeah, let's put that in the dream journal to someday, maybe when you're a different person, if you ever are, probably not. But, that kind of thing. It's like, probably not. It's like, yeah, you're right. But it is funny because, like, instantly when you're like, when we talk about this law, I thought about like the supervillains who like lay out their whole dastardly plan and like their ultimate aspirations for world domination, and then they are so surprised when they get foiled.
It's so funny where like it reminds me of this one specific thing where the villain's like, "Do you have any last words?" And the hero is just like, "I do. Could you tell me how ingeniously you came up with this plot?" And they just play on the villain's ego. Yeah. And they're like, "Why, yes, let me wax eloquently on this whole time." And the hero's got all this time to undo minds and to...
It's like, by the way, checkmate.
Get wrecked. It is the funniest thing. But like in real life, if you're telling your coworkers or telling your like loose associates about stuff that you're trying to do, and they're going to take the crabs in a barrel kind of approach with you, they might just go ahead and kneecap you along the way too. So like, why would you want to expose yourself to weakness like that? It's much better to just take action and let your actions speak for themselves. And people can assume motives, and they can like try to do the whole conspiracy theory where they're trying to connect the dots all over the place to try to figure out where your headspace is at. Mm-hmm. That way they're spending time doing that instead of actually foiling your plans, because they got to figure out what your plan is to begin with. And they got to spend time doing that if they're that emotionally invested in like ruining your time.
It's funny because it also reminded me of, I think it was like months ago, but we watched or reacted to the Charlie Kirk video about, essentially he was telling pretty much his experience with like his wife, like their first like conversation together, where he was like, I'm doing this and this and I'm gonna do this, and it's like you along for the ride. And it's funny because like really not knowing fully like his
background story,
his whole origin story, that is exactly what he did. Like generally you don't do that like on a first date. Right. You probably shouldn't. But I mean, there is something to be said if you're like in your like mid to late 30s, you don't have time to F around with like, hey, I'm doing things. Are you in?
Sure.
Like you need to like just cut the BS. But generally, especially if you are younger, if you are a younger man and you are, invested in this person and like this is a potential spouse, like you're not going to just tell him like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, especially because sometimes, life kind of kerschwacks you here and there. And ultimately, if it doesn't happen just the way you say it does, she's going to resent you. It's going to look bad.
Yeah, it could come down to resentment, but I think that there's something to be said about aspirational goals, mm-hmm. where you are stretching yourself in order to meet those goals. And I think that when you are forcing yourself to grow by having things that are a little bit beyond your reach, I think that's a positive thing. But I think that's not something that you project out to other people, aside from your like close inner circle. I think that when you set yourself up for failure is by doing the things where you set these just grand designs that are just like crazy, and not just like incremental growth that is like achievable with substantial effort. Right? I think there's a big difference there.
Definitely. So like that whole thing, that whole like super villain, like my ultimate plan. If you come into like a person even who's like almost a potential, like you might put a ring on it, like don't do that. Like, don't do the whole supervillain, like, laying out your dastardly plan.
Sure,
Not
because
so dastard, but okay.
Well, because they could be a gold digger, and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, this is great. Let me play the part of the compliant person that he. Let me be the kind of person that he would want, and put a mask on and put that as my mask."
So 60 ways sideways.
Right, but I'm just kind of thinking that what is the worst case scenario?
That is the worst.
Of what this behavior opens you up to in terms of your weaknesses. Right? By going ahead and being too forthright with things and not having a proper like gap between knowing what you're about and knowing who you're talking to. Right? Because if you're just like putting your plans out to just anybody, it opens you up to all these things because you don't know them, so you don't know them as a person, and they can easily just act the part and just get you later. And so that's why just let the guys know, hey, be careful about this because by all means, you're going to get wrecked if you do this in front of the wrong person.
Any and all relationships.
So some positive ways to use this strategy is you can share your direction, but not necessarily like your destination, right? There's a big difference between saying, hey, I'm going to be going north and I'm going to go to the North Pole because I want to go ahead and catch a reindeer and I want to ride it. Bareback reindeer games.
I see what you did there. You're quoting me.
Yep, that's the idea. So the other thing is you can reveal the story of how the plans came to be after you achieve the results. Yeah. I think that's a really cool thing to do is that people are more interested in the how something was accomplished than talking aspirationally.
Yeah. Save it for your lifetime achievement speech.
Or like a quarterly report or whatever, right? Like there's any number of ways that you can adequately tell the story without giving up the game. And then controlling the narrative is kind of like the more manipulative piece of this. I'll go ahead and say this from Magic the Gathering. We play Commander a lot, and Commander is a social version of this game where generally you got 4 people that are playing. And a lot of times when someone gets ahead and it's not me, I'm like, oh no, that thing's dangerous. You should definitely kill it. It sure would be unfortunate if that thing died because, oh boy, if we let it go, it's going to be real bad for all of us.
Instigator.
And just let somebody else handle it. Nice.
Well, it's just like
never mind my stuff. Just look at their stuff.
It's just like when you play Munchkin. You are never the first to get close to winning.
Yeah.
Never, ever do that.
Yeah, make sure
everybody will dogpile on, and then when they're all tapped out, then you go.
And then you go in for the kill. That's the deal. But I think it's just interesting by controlling the storyline and controlling how things go. You see this in politics all the time where people are like, never mind what's going on behind the curtains. This is the thing to pay attention to.
Pay no attention to the man. Yeah. Wicked is hot right now, so it's funny.
Yeah.
That comes up.
Cool. Let's go on to the 4th law that says, always say less than necessary.
See, Gen Z had it right.
So I would say that most men of power and of authority generally speak in more truncated ways. They don't wax eloquently about things. They just say what it is. And then if it requires a story, they'll tell a story to reinforce the initial point and then wrap it up. And that's it.
But again, look at me. Largely feminine MO.
Like your storytelling is all over the place.
Yep.
But it works for
We're
women.
Go on a journey.
That reminds me of last night. You were trying to tell me a story and like 10 minutes
like,
into
wait a minute,
it,
what are we doing?
I'm like, I was invested in this story because of this thing. You never got to this thing. We're 10 minutes in. I need you to land the plane. What is this? Because I'm all tapped out on attention on this thing unless you can like give me the payoff because this ain't happening anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you're finally like, oh, okay, well, I needed to set it up. Please pay off now, please.
This is why you're flying this plane.
Yeah.
It's already bad enough sometimes.
That's okay. Stuff happens. But this law is crucial because words create commitments. When you say too much, people will begin to expect things out of you. It also opens yourself up to weakness. Because if you are saying all these unnecessary words and you're not controlled in your speech, people are going to latch on to little things you say and just go after it. And I think that though podcasting is one of those things where it is part of the nature of the beast to have a lot of things and you can get clipped out of context, if you are communicating effectively along the way, it makes it more and more difficult for somebody to do that with a straight face, because there's a big difference between taking something out of context and then you posting the whole clip and being like, look at it. Here's the whole context.
Is it real good?
Reverses so much, because then they're like, oh, I can't trust this person that went ahead and
clipped it.
Now, all of a sudden, that ruins their reputation and it reinforces your reputation. Assuming you're acting in a virtuous manner and all of this kind of thing.
Again, this is how it went with Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even like the 2 minutes before and after it. Oh, so that's not what that was. Oh, how about that?
Yeah. And another thing that's kind of a key point here is when you speak a little too much, oftentimes you reveal your insecurities. You show your weaknesses without intention, because if you just kind of go with no filter, all of a sudden, everything that could be used against you starts coming out. Just willy-nilly. And you see this a lot with women. They will just tell on themselves if you just give them enough rope. So,
yep. Give them a little, and just enough rope. Sometimes the jokes write themselves.
Well, there's that. And then there's something to be said about letting her do most of the talking during a date. Because then now all of a sudden,
the red flags just come spilling out.
You could just go ahead and pull the string of the yarn ball and just be like, let me just continue on.
Scarf.
And we'll see what happens. What unravels here?
Oh my gosh. Turn this off.
Well, on the plus side, then you know that, hey, you see the red flag and you're like, yeah, next. we're not doing this anymore.
Okay, good talk. Great.
Yeah. And so other ways, so we talked about the why things are bad. Now let's talk about like kind of what this might look like. It could be things like you're over explaining yourself out of nervousness. Like you are not really confident in the things that you're saying. So then you just kind of blab on. And I think that you see this a lot in women where because they're not confident in the things they're saying, they're just kind of like letting it fly. And that's a signal to men to really think through what you're saying before you say it. And like common wisdom is you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen more than you speak.
I know. How many times does the Bible talk about your tongue and your words and all of that? It's like, come on. If it's mentioned enough, you got to listen.
And it's really funny because this is also a weakness too. I see in debates a lot where people will try to speak faster and louder and say more words to try to come off looking smart or to be looking right. And when you actually take the time to listen to what is actually being said, it's a nothing burger. Mm-hmm. And you could just follow the rabbit trail and then find the 1 or 2 key weaknesses in the statement and then hit them with that and just derail the train instantaneously. And it's just really funny to see these clips of this thing happening and them just trying to like sputter out of control from their mouths to try to catch up on something where they missed the boat a while ago in the conversation. Now, in practice, when you are more intentional about your speech and you are a bit more silent in your demeanor, people tend to take more notice of the things that you do say and the things that you don't say. So I find that oftentimes in staff meetings, I will not say a whole lot unless the thing needs to be said or there is a designated time for it. And it gives everybody else in the room the opportunity to have their piece. And it frees me up to think through the things that they are saying and absorb it, to listen to understand rather than listen to respond. And then when I take the time to interject, the employees pay more attention because I'm interjecting for a reason. And they know that I'm not just going to shoot my mouth off for no reason.
That's why the archetype is the strong, silent type.
That and like, if you're willing to be comfortable with silence and pauses when you speak, a lot of times it is easier for somebody to be wrapped in their attention in that. Unlike when somebody is using ums, ahs, and all these things to fill the space out of nervousness usually. It is just what it is. It's a matter of like not being trained in the way that you speak on a regular basis, and these things come out and they show themselves in such a way as to weaken your position in a lot of ways. And finally, when you are giving directions in a concrete and concise manner, two things happen. One, it's easier for someone to understand what you're saying. And two, it takes less time to direct them. So there you go. By taking the time to condense down the things that you have to express to somebody else when you're delivering directions, that is generally the better thing to do. Whereas telling the whole background story and the whole saga and the song and dance for directions is not usually an effective strategy.
No.
But you can tell a story and have shared like vision and shared like emotional connectedness, which is why women tell stories this way for the most part, is follow me on a journey. Let's go ahead and experience this together so that I can go ahead and bring this experience to you so that we can share this. That's why women do that typically.
Yeah.
Whereas guys, we tend to communicate because there's a purpose involved. There is another thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to take the hill. We're trying to climb the mountain. We're trying to slay the dragon. There is a thing to be done rather than some emotional experience to go on together.
Mm-hmm. Definitely when I'm with my friend, like I'm completely like, blah, 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 blah. I'm not even trying to filter a lot of things like through, does this really need to be said? Blah, 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 blah. Do I need to tailor this? All that stuff. And then more like, I try and more so filter things with you. I mean, when we're just bullshitting, it's like, whatever, like whatever. But if I'm trying to relay something, it's like, I always process it now. And it's taken over a decade of like really working on this. Still a work in progress, clearly. But I try and make sure it's like, does he really need to deal with this? Like, is this something that he needs to hear or know or whatever, what have you? Sometimes I just want to tell you things because I love you and you're my best friend.
And that's fine. And it's just one of those things where you've learned that I'm going to ask you some questions. And if you have the answers to the questions ahead of time, things are going to go much better for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to ask you who, what, where, when, why, how.
Actual concrete things. I don't want to go on a journey.
I don't want to go on a journey. I just need to know the thing.
Yeah. But then even more so when I am like out in amongst whoever that I don't know and I'm not comfortable with, then I'm trying to just be like, do I even need to speak at all? Like, honestly, because sometimes, especially because I'm surprised, crazy that people are shocked when they hear this, that I'm actually an introvert by nature and peopling takes energy. Mm-hmm. So I'm already genuinely just like a ball of anxiety to start.
Right.
Because I'm not comfortable. So that's usually why I'm just like, I don't need. Where when I was younger, obviously, I just blah, blah, blah. It's like.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different. So let's go ahead and talk about applying the strategy a little bit and why this law, or how you can use the inferences that come from this law to your advantage. So replacing explanations with declarations or directions is generally going to be a positive thing for men, especially, and women that are acting in a masculine hierarchy, like in work. This is an application for them too, is rather than going on a journey, just answer the who, what, where, when, why, how.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Unless the story is necessary to connect the dots. Because there is a lot to be said about telling the thing, then telling a story to explain the thing so that people can absorb the thing. And it can be a part of them because they can link the things you are expressing with the story you told. That's often why when you see like nonfiction or works of nonfiction, there's a principle and then there's a story that goes along with it. Yeah. There's an anecdotal story. That's just what it is. It's just their way of taking crystallized wisdom that has existed in the ether, and maybe they're the originator of it, maybe they're not, and they put their own spin on it. Same kind of thing.
You want to know what a hypocritical mess I am?
Uh-oh, what?
When I read those kind of like self-help nonfiction type books, and I'm like, especially the ones that I want to take notes on.
You're like, I hate these stories.
I skip the stories.
Like, just tell me the thing.
It makes no sense considering who I am. It's funny. I'm just, yeah.
Well, and it's funny because
I'm a mess.
I kind of read things the same way. I'll be like, okay, do I understand this concept? Let me see if the way this person is using stories, generally speaking, will crystallize it for me better. And it'll be like a choose your own adventure book for the most part. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not going on this adventure. Skip. I'm going to skip that quest. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
Until it makes sense.
Or even like skip all the way down the narrative to like the bullet points of the things they want you to do on the quest.
Right.
Like, just tell me, what do I kill? What am I looking for? Like,
oh my gosh. I remember when we first started playing World of Warcraft, a long time ago, you would read the quest log.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just be like, let me read the bullet points. What is the thing that needs to be done? And it would frustrate me to no end that you're like, I'm trying to get the story.
I want the lore.
And I'm like, I want to kill the boars. I don't want the lore.
I mean, until I went down the rabbit hole of add-ons, and then it was like, oh, just auto accept the quest, and then it says, here's the thing you need to kill. Kill this, kill this, kill this, click that. I'm like, can do.
Because you had less appreciation for the lore. You weren't like, oh, let me go ahead and look at every little thing that's going on here.
Well,
because it wasn't like new and shiny to you.
Well, then I discovered that the internet has things that I can like read the stuff.
Or you can listen to an 8-hour YouTube video.
Exactly.
Like, let's catch up on the lore of World of Warcraft in 8 hours. Okay, great. Let's do that.
Yep. Well, I did watch those quite a bit.
Yep.
Novel 87.
There you go. So another way to apply this strategy is to use silence as a power move. Because sometimes you can just ask a question and shut up and just listen.
Well,
and watch people melt.
yeah, in this culture, it's almost like completely an anomaly. You already distinguish yourself by doing that.
Oh, yeah. So in staff meeting, you see this like all the time that this happens. Like, I will ask one of our employees a question and I will say nothing else. And I'll just look at them and they'll just have no idea. And then that gives me an understanding of where they're floundering because I can see where in the process they're messing up. And I can go ahead and ask them a pointed question right in the direction of where they're floundering.
Especially if they're new and they don't know you super well and the way you lead. Mm-hmm. It's really funny to watch them go, like, say the answer and go, like, as if it, is that right? Is that right, Dad? Did I do right, teacher? Is that the right answer? Like, and sometimes, like, afterward, they're like, or no, or yes. Like, it's almost like their brain is melting. They're like, oh, I don't know. Please don't look at me anymore.
Well, and it's funny because, so I only got this from learning Chinese because my Chinese teachers, like, this was the thing that they had against me for most of the time that I was learning Chinese, is they did not like that I could intuit what was going on, that I could put pieces together very quickly without actually knowing what's going on, like, by its mechanics, by its mechanical pieces. I could be like, that's what's going on. And they're like, wait, what are you talking about? How do you know this? And I'm like, yeah, here's the context. And here's the one discrete detail. And they're like, but what does the rest of the sentence say? I'm like, meh, I don't know.
You asked me about this
thing. This is what's going on. This is the right answer. And they're like, yes, it is, but I hate that you did that.
That's funny.
Well, and it's just hilarious because it was like consistent because I'm really good at putting pieces of a puzzle together. Like, so long as it's not in Dungeons and Dragons and there's some like really like obscure thing that our dungeon master is really trying to get us railroaded into doing. Yeah, it's just one of those things where not every puzzle is made the same.
You know, I kind of do that kind of thing. Well, at least the way I'm instructing our kids in Latin. Like, we do a couple of the exercise, like, what'd you get? What's your answer for this? But at the end of the seminar hour, we'll actually do what's just like a reading, like a paragraph. And I'll just read it slowly. And then I will tell them, what is this about? Like, who's mentioned? What are they doing? Like, I'm asking them to pick out verbs. I'm not asking them to translate like sentence by sentence. It's just like, what names did you hear? What verbs did you hear? What places did you hear? Like, and I'm just getting them to pick that stuff out and know what we know about Roman culture and all of that stuff. And it's usually Romans conquering the Gauls and Caesar, blah, blah, blah. So, like, they already know this. And now they're just starting to be like, something about, like, they made a camp and it was so funny because they're getting it. They're getting to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't ask you word for word what's the translation. I'm just asking what'd you pick out? Because that's the important skill to understanding things. Anything, no matter what it is. It could be quantum physics, I don't care.
Find the essential nuggets and own that.
And put those pieces together as your building blocks for understanding, filling in the gaps.
Right.
Much faster.
Much quicker to do it that way. So another thing that you can do to apply this law to really strengthen yourself is the idea to speak to clarify, not to soothe somebody's insecurities. Just because they're melting, in most contexts, you don't have to go ahead and reassure them. There are contexts, however, where it is important to reassure them. Like when your employee is self-destructing because they think that they're like the worst person ever, you can go and let them stew in it just a little bit for effect. And then you can pick them up a little bit. Let them have the emotional roller coaster if that's what they need. But that goes back to like leadership principles and knowing your people so that you know when it is and it is not appropriate to do these things.
Or your wife.
Or your wife. Turns out the employer-employee relationship and the husband-wife relationship, there is some overlap there in proper context. So that's the first 4 laws. So let's go ahead and do a quick recap on how you might put them together. The overarching concept of the first law is to manage your upward relationships. Like, don't outshine the master. It's just be grateful for the things that you have along the way and to understand where you are in the hierarchy and to treat your position and the position of those people above you with respect. The second law is about managing your lateral relationships, friends or enemies and all of that kind of stuff, and just understanding that when you take the time to have a good understanding of the context in which you are operating, you are better equipped to make better decisions about who to trust, why you're trusting them, and who you're going to work with over the long term.
Who you are within the sphere
will
dictate how you operate.
Now, the third law about smoke screening or hiding your intentions is just the idea of protecting your interior so that you can have this space within yourself to go through your plans and your operations and all of that where you don't let your insides be known to everybody else. Because not everybody needs to know, first of all. And second of all, it often puts you in a really bad light if you're just showing off and you have nothing to show for it.
No exposure.
Except in the right contexts. And then the fourth law is just the controlling your verbal presence, because a lot of times when you do not take the time to really think through the things you are looking to express to other people, you come off as sloppy, you come off as somebody that is not well disciplined in your speech, and you give away the farm a lot of times unintentionally by being loose in your tongue.
Mm-hmm. Those last two are more like of an introspective thing that affects your potential for mobility within your sphere.
Yeah. So I think that this kind of lends itself to some challenges and ways that you can take the time to think about these things and implement them for the next week. Like if you were to think about how to apply these laws, maybe you can look at, for the first one is, if you are unintentionally outshining your boss or somebody, take the time to not do that this upcoming week and find ways that you can be actively helpful to them this week.
This is especially helpful, like, to think about if you are like neurodivergent like me, where we like reveal things about our situations, and it often, especially in a professional sphere, comes off as we're trying to one up somebody.
Yeah, I think that it comes off in a variety of ways, but it could come off that way as well.
Whereas we're trying to just relate. It's like, you have to know that not everybody, most people do not relate that way.
Sure. All right. This way that you can apply the second law this week is maybe look at your friends and your enemies and kind of reassess what's going on there. And take some time and be like, I like these people. What have we been doing for each other lately? How have we been growing or been coming apart? It's a useful thing to do from time to time, is to reassess your relationships.
Sometimes you almost can just go back to basics and kind of just treat an interaction with somebody as if it was the first time, and just let them talk a lot and let them show you who they are. And you can gauge it from now this new filter you've acquired, and you just hear.
Right. Now, a way that you can apply the third law is maybe practice concealing one intention, even if it's just like in a board game or something where you're like, it's relatively low stakes and you're trying to practice this idea of concealing your intentions so that you're not showing the world your weaknesses everywhere. Maybe just in one game, kind of play your cards a little closer to your chest than you normally would, and take that as a practice.
Oh, like in Catan, when you hit 10 points and lo and behold, you had 3 victory points on board the whole time for like half the game.
Yeah, I don't have to go ahead and show you that that's what's going on. We're just playing the game. I'm not here to ruin your fun, and I don't show them unless you ask, and that's kind of the thing. Or
not that that's ever happened before.
Right, or when you go, oh, I almost won the game. You got lucky. Well, when you start popping off, I'm going to just be like, and here you go. You didn't know that I had these 3 victory points, and guess what? I could have won 15 minutes ago, but for the sake of having a good time together, we were doing this thing, and you ruined it.
Speaking of saying less words and not popping off.
Yeah, so there you go. That leads into the fourth thing,
Right.
is maybe in key interactions, say less so that you don't put your foot in your mouth. That's a good thing to practice this week.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
It's funny because the whole like speaking less, I think I started doing that when I started trying to figure out, I'm doing a little too much there, where sometimes I started with social media where I'm just like, and then I take the time to read it first and go, and sometimes I just click out of the comments. I'm like, I don't need to post that. It's not necessary. Like what is it going to do? I showed that rando on the internet.
Yeah.
You won't. People are going to think what they think, and they're just whatever.
Cool. So this was rules 1 to 4 out of the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. You can see it in the description below. You can go ahead and get a copy for yourself if you want to follow along with us over the next 11 episodes that we're going to do. We're going to handle 4 laws per week and have a great time sharing with you guys and sharing with our children, both current and future, to go ahead and see.
We're going on a quest.
We're going on a quest together. So if you are seeing this on the podcast channel, check out our main channel. And then likewise, if you're seeing this on the main channel, take a look at the podcast channel. That way you can get what you're looking for from the right direction. And I'd encourage you to subscribe right here. Have a good one, everybody.